Okay, welcome. I have here a magically tempered guitar which I will play to you and demonstrate as a warning to others. Magic temperament is generated by the major third, which is this open interval here. Um, that third is tuned closer to the harmonic series than it would be in 12 tone equal temperament, which is good, it sounds better. The magic temperament is a fairly simple temperament, but it is not mean tone. It follows different rules to mean tone. It gets you closer to 7 limit harmony than you would be in equal temperament or in mean tone. So there's our E. We can play. There we go. 7 limit harmony. It's good. The trade-off is that you have to deal with a syntonic comma, which is this step here. It means some keys don't work. Some standard chord progressions will sound strange even if you get them right, and sometimes you have the wrong chord or a chord will be out of tune on the neck, and this is unavoidable to an extent. It comes with the territory, but you can actually do pretty well with it, and there's a range of chords that will work, which I'll show you. So let's do that now, shall we? The first one, as we've had here, is E major. The second one, G major. And E minor, nice and simple. Then A minor. This, isn't it? Or was it this? Well, and we'll have a C chord. Let's see, is it this one or the other one? That roughly works anyway. And so on. So what do I do first? I'll do the fretting first. This fretting is specifically to 60 tone equal temperament. 60 tone is one of the magic temperaments. It isn't an optimal one, but it's good enough that you get away with it, especially with the vagaries of tuning guitar and tuning it with cable ties, which aren't, well, it's difficult to get them all in the right place and so on. So the big advantage of 60 tone is that the fifths and some of the major seconds are in the same place as they were with 12 tone equal temperament, so some of the frets can stay in, and so this is basically a hybrid fretting. I left a few of the frets there, and that makes it a bit easier to set up. If you were going to do new frets, it would also make it convenient in that the new frets would go in the old fret slots, and I have refretted the guitar and I have it here so that I can reach for it spontaneously in the middle of talking. I did this a while ago. This is done to mean tone temperament. Mean tone temperament also works. The problem is if you're using the same fretboard and you need to put a fret right next to a slot where another one came out, it doesn't quite work. And so professionals, of course, would say you put a new fretboard on there. That sounds like a big job to me. It is much easier to change the frets on the existing fretboard than to go to the trouble of taking one board off, putting another one on, gluing it in place, and so on. So 60 tone equal temperament means you don't have to worry about that, because where a fret comes in nearby an old one, it goes in exactly the same slot, and the other ones go in different slots. And you can save a little bit of time with your cable ties by not having to pull all of them out and put new ones on. It also happens that there's an easy to remember pattern here with 60 tone equal temperament, in that if we disregard the top of the neck, where we have 2 frets have come out, 1, 2, 3, 4 frets have gone on. Where 1 fret has come out, 2 frets have gone in place of them. Which is a bit of a coincidence. That comes from 19 tone equal temperament, I think, because there are 19 frets of the octave except for this special place here where there's a syntonic comma. So the specific tuning of magic, the choice of pitches for magic temperament is such that you get a syntonic comma here. It is convenient to have almost equally spaced frets, either 2 or 3 steps from 41 to an equal temperament, or 3 or 4, I think, from 60 to an equal temperament, as far as possible along the neck. It is very useful to have this one position where you have the syntonic comma in place. So I've done it with 20 frets to the octave, or 19 to the octave, plus this one special fret close to the neck. That extra fret means that you get from the nut 10-9 and 9-8. So it's a good rule of thumb that if you have simple intervals from the nut, then those will be in the right position when you come to play chords. If you tune the open strings to something approximating just intonation, so that your basic chords are in place, because if you're playing in one key, you'll probably find that the shifts you're making are simple intervals. Relative intervals is already in the key, and so this would work to an extent as a just intonation fretting, but magic temperament is saving us some work. So the first fret is 25, 24. It gives us G to G sharp, which must be the right one for our E major. The 2 frets make a semitone, a diatonic semitone, isn't it? Which is what we use for A minor. And because of magic temperaments, these intervals are equally spaced. They wouldn't be in just intonation. So in just intonation, some things will not quite work out, but you're probably talking 25, 24, 16, 15, 10, 9, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6, 5, 5, 4, 7, 5 or something there. And so it would almost work in just intonation, but magic temperament saves us a bit. In mean tone temperament, it works a lot better, but it's a bit more out of tune because you can't have both 9-8 and 10-9, so you always got to compromise between them, and ninth chords will not work as well, and the fifths won't be as good for everything else to be balanced. So that's the trade-off you have in magic temperament. The open strings, let's talk about the open strings. This is tunes to kind of standard temperament, which I call Spanish tuning, standard tuning, and it's tuned so that you have an E minor 7th chord on here. It seems to me like the founding principle of the tuning developed in Spain is that these strings are a kind of chord. These are the strings you get in a ukulele, usually with one of them re-entrant. I think these 5 strings are what you get in a banjo with one re-entrant. So these 4 strings are the core of the sound, and these 2 are added for bass. So it makes sense to concentrate on these ones, get them in tune, and it's an obvious way of tuning it to just intonation. How some people disagree with how obvious that is, and they think that you should be tuning the strings to perfect fourths, and then this would be a Pythagorean third. I find that just doesn't work out because of the principle that we've got simple intervals in the nut. We also want simple intervals on our open strings, and if you keep chaining perfect fourths in magic temperaments, they stop being simple. And the major third, the Pythagorean major third, is not a simple interval in magic temperament. Now, if you tune to these open strings, you find there is a wolf. The wolf is here. It also happens if you strum all the strings. Don't sound that good, and you think, is this guitar in tune? But it is, really. Is in tune. So the way you tune it is E string, 10 cents flat, equal temperament. Because it's 60 really good, but that's really easy to remember. It gets a bit more complicated with another tuning, but hey, 10 cents flat. A, I have tuned it 10 cents flat. You could also tune it 10 cents sharp. The result is that different chords will work with the open string and other chords will or won't work. That's a trade-off. You probably in practice would tune it according to the key you're playing in. But putting all these frets on so that you can only play in one key at a time is not very good. The flat one is the best all-round option, because when you want to play a B, you can choose the two different ways to play it. So that's the A string. The D string, 10 cents sharp, which means the wolf is 20 cents difference. E, A, D, G, 10 cents sharp, B 10 cents flat, E 10 cents flat. So the basically, let's look at these top four strings. That's an E minor 7. Not the best voicing of E minor 7, but it is an E minor 7th. If we want to play E minor, we need to move it one pitch by a whole tone, and that's E minor on these open strings. To go for the E minor across all strings, it's at the other whole tone. Because this is the flat A, I've got to tune it sharp, and so that's actually reasonably difficult again. That's a E minor. Then to get E major, we use the G sharp, which is a single semito, as I call it. That gives you E major. To play G, we take this, whatever kind of sixth chord that would be, and you add a minor third from E. That makes sense. E to G, doesn't it? Yes. And so that is E, G major. Now, this always sounds wrong. It doesn't sound wrong because I got the fingering wrong. It sounds wrong because this fret is buzzing. And so that's that. But a full G chord here. So the A goes up the larger interval. Because it's tuned flat, it generally ends up sharp. And whatever that is, that's another minor third. Yeah, it's the same minor third we had before, isn't it? So E to G. So that's your G major. Other chords, you find the fretting that makes sense and equal temperament. Choose the nearest frets. Decide if that chord is more like E or G, and it'll probably work out. So I think your A minor is here. I think this has the wrong A for the chord, and the A should be the sharp one. It is a fact that when a chord has includes an A, it may or may not work with the open string, and so this tuning is really done for E to the E scale to be in tune. Which, yeah, it's this, isn't it? Is that in tune or not? It means that G chord's another tune. So yeah, I'm not entirely clear what happens on this fretting myself. You can work it all out mathematically and decide whether the chord works. You can also use your ear to decide. And when you're sitting with a camera pointing at you, it's not always easy to working it out at that particular time. But I do know some chords that work. A C major will be something like this. And so on and so forth. So yeah, when you work it out, quite a few chords do work. It's good that the E and G patterns work. Unfortunately, both patterns don't work together in a useful way. The E major pattern requires you to finger a syntonic comma. You need both kinds of whole tone. That means you can't actually transpose this pattern anywhere else on the neck with this guitar. If you retuned the A string, you could. So if you like this chord shape, you would sharpen the A, yeah, tune a sharp A, and then you would be playing it like this, which will sound out of tune here, and then you can move it to lots of places on the neck. It's like the kite guitar at this stage. Wherever you have equally spaced frets, which would be here, you can put that as a bar chord. Bar chords don't tend to work at all with cable ties, unfortunately, which is another reason for using standard tuning rather than an open tuning. If you had a good fretting so that bar chords actually worked, then an open tuning would be a good bet, because whatever chord you choose for the open tuning, you then have 19 different places you can play it, so you're better than you would have been with equal temperaments. And if you're shifting it from major to minor is a fairly simple step, so you get quite a lot of those chords as well. This fretting is basically optimized for G, and these are kite steps that it isn't a kite from the open string. So what we're looking for is somewhere on the neck where there are two consecutive things, and well, that's a bit difficult for me to finger, but at least something like that would work. There are probably better things. You could always get an A chord. This is a flat A, so we want to tune it sharp. So really, A should be sitting like this. If we were going to get the A chords done well, we'd again have the E pattern. But yes, we would EA. That works. It doesn't work here. What we can do, and I think I've got this right now, is a D major. Is this it? Or is it that? I think it's that, isn't it? And a D7. Well, that's not quite right. At least we have some D chords, but D is starting to get to be a problematic chord. I think D maybe we've got the right A for D anyway. Things would be better if the frets were better and if you practiced a bit more before you made your video. So that is a few chords. The cost of a chord in Magic Temperament for a major or minor chord is 5 steps. There are 19 steps. So if you tune, you should be able to get 14 different chords. You generally will get 12 chords of a given shape. Some shapes are more expensive than others, and if you tune them right, you can do a lot more than a single major key, but you have to learn it and practice it, and I'm not coming here with very many chords in stock, but never mind that. What else do I want to say? I think, yeah, so that interval here is the approximate 7/6, and this is a good tune for playing with. It's certainly arson chords that uses it, but I find it, so that gives you a kind of sound that you wouldn't get with normal equal temperament, where you can't choose the major third. So chords are complicated, and I didn't come properly prepared, and I can't remember them all, and obviously it is harder than playing an equal tempered guitar, which I'm still not that great at, and also harder than playing a mean tone guitar, where there are simpler rules you have to follow to get your chords in tune. But melodies, well, if you've been practicing for a while, I did, but not recently. So intuitively, you just know where to find them after a while. So I can't tell you what I'm playing, but I can find some things that sound nice, and I'm not really lacking in steps, and I certainly think it's convenient to have this pattern of fretting rather than a kite guitar where everything's equally spaced, because you get these like these standard intervals from the nut, and it's a good pattern to play with. And so I'd certainly like to have a professionally done guitar like this. I don't have it. As far as I'm aware, nobody does. And so this is the one I have to use to play it. It'd also be nicer to have somebody who knew more about a guitar to play it. We don't. You have to have me, and I'm demonstrating as best I can. But this is definitely a really good guitar fretting. It's definitely my second favourite fretting after the mean tone that I've already got done reasonably properly, but still not entirely professionally done. If I had the budget, I would definitely get a guitar made up in Magic, probably to a 41 tone subset, and certainly to this kind of pattern and not the kite pattern. And that would be a viable tune. It would work for some standard chords, as I've been trying to demonstrate today, because the standard tuning does work with a lot of standard chords, and the fingerings are very similar to the ones you're playing normally because pitches are in roughly the same position. If you're into alternative tunings in the guitar sense, mostly they make sense. If it's an open tuning, it will probably make sense because you're probably getting simple intervals from the nut, and it'll all work out. And it'll be simpler because of the bar chords. If you have a guitar that works properly with bar chords, there are some tunings that won't work. An open fourths tuning, consecutive fourths, is probably not going to work because that tends to imply mean tone. Although it'll just be a rotation of standard tuning if you know where to put your wolf. Obviously standard tuning does work given that wolf. It really does work. There are some positions where you can get 7 limit chords and you can experiment with that, as I haven't yet because I'm still an imperfect player. There certainly are some positions where you can get 11 limit chords. I'm not prepared. I can't explain them to you now. They are surely there. They're not so good, not so easy to find because they're fairly complex given the guitar and they aren't always the right shapes and so on. So you may be better off with the kite fretting if you really want 11 limit chords, or play them on your keyboard and just use the guitar as accompaniment, and it'll have enough of the notes to be useful. So yeah, a Magic fretted guitar is definitely a good thing, would be a good thing to be done professionally, and this is what I have to say about it. Thank you for watching this far.